There's something almost secret happening on game nights in Lexington, long before the stands at Rupp Arena fill up, long before the noise, the lights, and the pressure that surround Kentucky basketball. While most are still on their way, Braydon Hawthorne is already on the court. Alone, repeating movements, adjusting his shot, testing his own body, and above all, waiting. Waiting for the day he will cease to be just a silent promise and become a visible part of the Wildcats' present. The image is powerful in itself. 7 foot, 7 forward, still with the body of a teenager, shooting from every possible angle, simulating screen exits, creating space on the dribble, practicing long-range shots almost 9 feet from the basket. The ball almost always falls. And when it doesn't, the technical skill, the balance, the lightness of his feet, and the naturalness of the shot indicate that that miss is just a statistical detail, not a limiting factor. It is in this scenario, almost invisible to the general public, that the surprise surrounding Hawthorne arises, a player who has not yet officially debuted for Kentucky, but who is already provoking increasingly loud conversations behind the scenes of the program, hosted by Mark Pope. Hawthorne's journey to Lexington has already had enough twists and turns to explain part of his current situation. Initially committed to West Virginia, he found himself in the middle of a coaching staff change, reconsidered his path, returned to high school for another year, and, in the midst of this process, exploded in the national rankings, finishing as the 33rd prospect in the class of 2025 according to 247 Sports. What seemed to be a redshirt plan back in Morgantown ended up taking on a different form upon his arrival in Kentucky, now amidst a roster full of talent, depth, and high expectations. The fact is that, after 8 games of the 2025-26 season, Hawthorne is still waiting for his debut, and the decision to use him or not carries enormous strategic weight. Mark Pope has been clear in explaining that, unlike American football, college basketball doesn't allow for experimentation. 1 game and you're out of the redshirt year. There's no 4-game grace period. It's all or nothing. And that's precisely why the coach has been handling the situation with almost surgical caution. In Pope's view, the value of preserving Hawthorne now is directly linked to projecting a future that he himself doesn't hesitate to describe as brilliant. The coach's discourse isn't about restraint, but about investment. He sees in Hawthorne a special talent, someone who can benefit enormously from an entire year focused solely on physical, technical, and mental development. Without the pressure of playing twice a week, without the need for constant routine adaptation, without the wear and tear that consumes rookies before they even fully mature. At the same time, Pope doesn't ignore the dilemma. Minutes on the court also shape players. And it's in this delicate balance between future and present that the decision is being built. Meanwhile, within the team, Hawthorne is already treated less as a distant project and more as a living part of the group. Veteran Otega Owa was direct in pointing out both the potential and the most obvious obstacle, his physique. He's thin, very thin, weighing 77 kilos and standing 2.03 meters tall, numbers that put into perspective how much physical development he still needs to achieve. And this development won't be theoretical. It comes from daily training, from confrontations against stronger, heavier, more prepared players. For Owa, it's precisely this daily clash that will allow Hawthorne to make the necessary leaps. He knows that it's there, in training, that his game is being honed. But perhaps the biggest surprise surrounding Hawthorne isn't just his technical talent. It's the emotional impact he already has on a team that, at various points in the season, has been dealing with pressure, injuries, and the natural fluctuations of a young roster. Colin Chandler, second-year point guard, went beyond court analysis, describing Hawthorne as the soul of the team. This isn't empty rhetoric. Chandler speaks of someone who maintains the same energy every day, who brings lightness amidst the pressure, who unites the group even without appearing in the statistics. In an environment where individualism easily prevails, Hawthorne has been, according to his own teammates, a point of cohesion. This role became even more evident when, in training, he began simulating elite opponents. Before the game against North Carolina, he took on the role of Caleb Wilson, one of the most athletic rookies projected to be a top NBA draft pick. The result was reflected on the court. Wilson was limited, shot poorly, and Kentucky was in the game until the end. Even in the close defeat, it was clear that the preparation didn't come out of nowhere. Hawthorne, away from the spotlight, was there. The Kentucky Wildcats' loss to the North Carolina Tar Heels, more than just a setback on the sporting calendar, is a stark reminder of how unforgiving the dynamics of college basketball can be. On that night, when dreams of glory within the legendary Rupp Arena were replaced by collective frustrations and still unpolished individual talent, it became evident that the team led by Mark Pope has much to adjust before its ambitions become reality. Coach Mark Pope arrived in Lexington with a clear vision. He wanted to bring a modern, offensive style of play, a team that could fill the opponent's net with three-point shots. But, at least in the game against the Tar Heels, that promise seemed far from being fulfilled. The Wildcats attempted only 13 long-range shots, an anemic number considering the expectations created by Pope's philosophy, and converted only one of them. A single three-pointer, curiously coming from Brandon Garrison, center, a position traditionally associated with playing close to the basket. The contrast between Pope's plan and its execution was stark. Otega Owa, one of the leaders of this young and still somewhat rough around the edges group, was direct in pointing out where part of the problem lies. He acknowledged a lack of discernment and patience in exploiting opportunities outside the paint. We weren't playing with both feet on the ground enough to find open players for shots, he said, highlighting that the team was too focused on penetrating, being aggressive in their drives, but neglecting the balance needed to create clear shooting opportunities. This analysis, although done calmly and without excessive dramatization, reveals a critical gap between the tactical plan and its practical execution. Still, it would be unfair to reduce the loss to just cold numbers or isolated mistakes. The Wildcats were competitive at various points in the game, even opening up a 13-point lead at one point. However, the Tar Heels' absolute dominance in offensive rebounds, 20 in total, exposed another worrying weakness: a lack of defensive consistency and inadequate positioning to prevent second chances for opponents. This resulted in 22 second chance points for North Carolina, a decisive difference in the final score. When combined with a drought of more than 10 minutes without field goal conversions in the second half, the scenario painted a bleak picture for the immediate future. However, there are reasons for optimism, even amidst the difficulties. First, because the season is still in its early stages and adjustments can be made. Second, because the Kentucky roster, although inexperienced, possesses considerable raw talent. Players like Jasper Johnson, Cam Williams, and Andrea Jelavic have the potential to improve their three-point shooting percentages, provided they receive proper guidance and develop confidence in the system implemented by Pope. And, of course, there's hope of having key players like Jalen Lowe, whose return could bring stability to the perimeter. Mark Pope now faces a test of resilience and managerial skill. The pressure on him is inevitable, especially in an iconic program like Kentucky basketball. The upcoming games against rivals like Gonzaga, Indiana, and St. John's will be true barometers to assess whether the team can evolve quickly or remain mired in inconsistencies. It's important to remember that Pope isn't starting from scratch. He's shaping a new identity for a program steeped in tradition, which requires time and patience, scarce resources in such a competitive environment. If there's anything to celebrate in this defeat, it's the frankness with which the players themselves, like Otega Owa, are willing to face their mistakes. Acknowledging failures is the first step to overcoming them, and the mature attitude shown after the game suggests that this group is willing to learn. Furthermore, the ability to compete until the end, even on a bad night, shows that the fighting spirit still beats strongly within this team. While fans in Lexington anxiously watch the season unfold, it's up to the coach and players to prove that this defeat isn't a symptom of a larger crisis, but rather a necessary chapter in the journey towards growth. Landon Watson's decision to enter the transfer market is another chapter in a season marked by increasingly frequent and strategic moves in the world of college football. The phrase "that being said," which has become almost a signature in the statements of athletes who choose to seek new directions, reflects not only the changes in the sport's dynamics, but also the pragmatic mentality that permeates the current environment. For programs like Kentucky, these moves represent both challenges and opportunities, and it is up to the team led by Will Stein to transform this transition into a step forward. Landon Watson, an experienced player with a consolidated career in 3 different programs, TCU, Marshall, and Kentucky, carries with him a valuable background. His only season at Lexington may not have been marked by stellar numbers: 21 tackles and 1 tackle for loss in 237 snaps. But his impact goes beyond traditional statistics. As someone who has played 37 games throughout his college career, Watson brings to the field a maturity and understanding of the game that are difficult to replicate. His departure, therefore, creates a vacuum that will need to be filled, either internally or through the arrival of new talent. However, the news of his entry into the transfer market should not be seen merely as a loss, but as part of a natural cycle in modern college football. The transfer market, which continues to grow in importance and influence, allows programs to reassess their needs and adjust their rosters quickly and efficiently. For Kentucky, this means that Watson's departure opens up space for other players to assume more prominent roles, while also offering the chance to attract reinforcements that can further raise the team's competitive level. Will Stein has just arrived, and the ability to recruit high-level athletes from other universities, especially those seeking a new opportunity to shine, will be crucial to sustaining the program's progress. With the structure Stein is building, including the possible hiring of Pete Nocta to lead off-field recruitment efforts, Kentucky has all the necessary tools to become an attractive destination for players like Watson, who are still seeking the ideal fit for their skills and goals. Furthermore, Watson's situation illustrates an important point about the current state of the sport. Athletes' eligibility and physical health are intrinsically linked to their career decisions. The fact that he needs special authorization to play in 2026, should he wish to continue his college career, highlights the complexities involved in these processes. If the NCAA grants this authorization, Watson could extend his college career, potentially finding a program where he can flourish. Otherwise, he may pursue alternative paths, such as seeking professional opportunities or exploring options within the program itself. On the other hand, for Kentucky fans, Watson's departure is a reminder that college football is a constantly changing ecosystem. Players come and go, and the key to success lies in managing these transitions intelligently and strategically. With Will Stein now at the helm, there is reason for optimism. The promise to bring in several players from other universities to strengthen the roster in 2026 is a clear indication that the program is looking to the future with ambition and meticulous planning. Landon Watson's entry into the transfer market is a reminder that college football is as much about adaptation as it is about excellence. For Watson, this is a time of personal and professional transition as he seeks the next chapter in his career. For Kentucky, It's an opportunity to rethink its approach and ensure the roster continues to evolve. And for Will Stein, it's another chance to demonstrate that his vision for the program not only keeps up with the trends in the sport, but shapes them for the team's benefit. Comment,